wanted to do a live. This is actually my first live session, and you see the title. So I wanted to try something different. So I am sort of, I don't want to say shooting from the hip. As you see, I have a title. So welcome to so I wanted, I don't see the chat on the side. So working it out. So I want to say thank you for everyone that's been supporting my channel. I've been getting some great feedback. Hey, tell me if you can hear me. Is my voice coming through clearly? Can everyone hear me? What's up? Thanks for the message. Let's see. It's fine? Cool. Thank you. Hey, that's Chris. So my first live session, and I usually like doing it with some of my books that are behind me. As you see, I want to talk about something that's important. Why do women believe they are smarter than men? And I think I'm going to take a perspective that probably not too many people have used on this topic. It's this is an important, and I think a lot of men underestimate the need to have these kinds of conversations. So if you look at us as humans and how we're raised, so I'm letting some other people come in, but we can only talk about the things that we already know, that we've been taught. It's a little warm here in Jersey, so I'm going to keep my vocal cords lubricated so I can come through clearly here. So when I say we only know what we know, for example, si yo quiero practicar con ustedes, tal vez alguna gente no pueden entenderme. So some people may know exactly what I said. Many of you know that was Spanish. And for those of you who don't, I said if I want to speak to you in another language, many of you can understand because you were not given Spanish. So people only use what they know. So when you think about talking about whether men and women or who's smarter, one of the things that we've been given from little boys and men is that girls are smarter and more mature. And that's all we know. So if all you know, if all you've been told from the time that you were a little infant is that your mother's smarter than your father, and your sister's smarter than you, or your female cousins, they're smarter than you, and you should respect and bow down to a woman's intelligence, that's no different than just knowing one language. Oh, cool. So welcome, man. Thank you. You found me through Vermeil. Yep, yeah, Vermeil's a good guy, no question. I've been on his show. He's actually come on to my podcast. So Vermeil's a really smart dude. Thanks for joining. Thank you for everyone who's joining me. Look forward to all of your feedback and getting your chats and messages. So I want to get into this. The topic is, why do women believe they're smarter than men? So kind of like what I was just saying, if that's all you know, yes, what do they possess? I'm actually going to get into that. Like I'm going to question what intelligence do women actually have when you look at the big picture and the decisions they make. Yeah, yo, what's up, man? Thanks for joining. What's up, dog? So what are the decisions women make? So, like I said, see, yo quiero practicar con ustedes en otro idioma. If I want to speak with all of you in another language, if you don't speak Spanish, you won't understand, right? So, hey, what's going on? Thanks for joining, man. If I speak to you in a language you don't understand, you won't know what I'm saying because no one gave you that language. They didn't give you Spanish or Russian or Portuguese. So what we give little boys is that girls are smarter than us, right? So I was thinking about this topic, the men, perspective that most people never talk about, and it would be funny if someone made a movie about this. So I'm saying that men have been tricked out of their intelligence, at least the level at which most men can operate. And if you doubt me, just look around you, right? The fact that you're using a smartphone or an iPad, a tablet, or a computer, all this stuff was built by men. The entire infrastructure that allows the internet to function, all of this done by men. If women were smarter than us, they would have, back in the 70s, walked away from us and said, hey, we're going to build our own civilization because men are too dumb and we're going to show them the right way. They didn't do it. Now, you could say they're smart by virtue of letting men do all the work and they sit back and claim that they're the prize. Yeah, you can say that's smart, except everything that's built is by men. The buildings, the cars, the roads, the trains, the planes, the sewer systems, all of this, we've done that. It's man's brain that strategizes, that plans, and our hands, our manpower. So our brain power, manpower. If women were actually smarter than us, they would have taken over and showed us the right way to do it. They haven't, for a reason. And when they say they don't need us, they don't leave and say we're going to do something better. They stick right here. So I want to give you a counterintuitive perspective. So everyone knows about Superman. Imagine if Superman, instead of him landing in the middle of some farmland country out in the country, imagine if Superman landed in the hood during the crack epidemic. And he was raised by a family that lived in the hood, poor, one of the sisters or brothers on crack, and that was the environment he was in. Superman would have never known that he was as intelligent and he had the force, the power and might that he had, because he would have been raised in an environment where brain power would have meant nothing. If anything, Superman would have been slinging his dick. He wouldn't have been Superman as we know him. He would have grown up to be a thug, dropped down into the hood. Superman would have never known he was Superman. Over the past 50, no one ever telling you that you were. So if Superman would have been raised, yeah, he would have. If Superman would have been raised by a single mother in the hood, poor, crack epidemic, that's what he would have thought of himself, right? Which would have diminished his power. And being born to a single mother who's a feminist and saying men ain't shit and women don't need you, if he would have raised himself. And the other thing about Superman, what you saw is when he was traveling through that pod through space, his father's voice was playing. So Superman's father educated him. Even after he landed on planet Earth, his father equipped him with crystals that he was able to put in the ground in this crystal castle, and he was still getting education from his father. So what I'm getting at is, if you're in a single home and you take away the education of the father, even for Superman, he would have never known about his own power that his father would have told him about. So we say that women are smarter than boys, not because they are, is because you raise them in a single mother home where the mother doesn't know how to teach him to be a man, right? And if she's a feminist, she doesn't even care about empowering her son. She's just thinking about all the things that she can do for her daughter and what daughters can do. And the only thing that a man can do is sling his dick. And Superman in the hood would have been a thug. Yeah, maybe he would have been able to fight, or he would have been a nerdy dude, but he would have been told he ain't shit and that he needs to respect women for being smarter. And that's really the kind of environment in society we've been raised in, right? So we tell men that they're only good for one thing. That's a whole nother thing. When you educate boys that they believe, when you tell men and boys that men only want one thing, and that's all men want in life, it gives women a huge advantage over men because then women just play the carrot on a stick. So men end up getting manipulated and not ever being able to use their power because they're interested in you as a resource. Yeah, exactly. So women are just looking at me like ATM machines and guard dogs, protection and provision. And we actually allow women, right? What does that look like? Protection and provision. That's your only job as a man. So as men, we actually allow women to make the rules, regulations for what it means to be a man or a real man. After they tell you that you only want one thing. So in life, it's sex. And you go get your education, and now you know you're supposed to provide provisions and protection. There's just, even if you are Superman, you never know it because you're living out some lifestyle that women have told you to live. What female says down, boy? That's a good question. Yeah. So, yeah, and the other thing, if Superman was in the hood, he could have ended up being a pimp, right? So he would have been Mac Daddy. So telling boys that it's only one thing that they want, it's almost like you hack into a boy's brain and plant a virus and tell him that he's only good for one thing. And that's really what has happened in our society. Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, maybe we give too many passes to women because we're told. And that is, see, that's what I'm getting at now, is that we're told what it means to be a man, what we're supposed to desire as a man. Listen, as men, we're competitive, not just for sports. In business, in sports, in academics, in music, men are going to be way more competitive. Our biology, we have the right to pound our chest and want to compete against the next man. Our competitive nature gives us, and our biology gives us the physical might to compete in sports and work insanely long hours and be able to endure that much longer than what most women ever will. And it gives us the aggression to do things, even criminal activity. Not endorsing that. I'm just saying that's part of our nature. Yeah, yeah. Economic power it's a big deal, right? And see, that's part of what I'm getting at, right? If you keep telling people that they're not who they are, that would be like telling Superman that he's not Superman and all he is Clark Kent. And the only thing he's good at is sex. And you suck all the power out of his brain. So that's like, it's like boys and men have been hacked into. And we've actually allowed that to happen. And they implant or plant what you think's supposed to think of yourself as a man. And that sucks the life out of men. A lot of men are not fulfilled in life. So why be in a relationship if you're not even going to get anything out of it aside from sex? I mean, you can get sex, you can pay for that, or you can do nice things, take a woman out. But so what I'm getting at is that we've been told that women are smarter and more mature. And when you look around you at all the things that are around us, this has all been created by men, not women. So men have way more power than we even realize. Right? It would be like, in my example of Superman, what if Superman was taught that Lois Lane was more powerful than he was and should be paid more, and she's smarter than he is? That's basically what our society has become. Our society has become propping up Lois Lane to be more powerful than Superman. Except when it really comes down to it and the trouble starts, Lois Lane is looking for protection. And that's what women are doing. And a lot of guys have gotten played by that. The other thing is, if you look at the media, just look at the media. You see all these sitcoms and movies where it's always showing the woman is smarter than the man. This is just more like hacking into the brain. It keeps teaching the same repetitive message that as a man, you're supposed to respect the woman's intelligence. Women are smarter. They know how to get things done. You could say women learn how to manipulate through things. We'll work extra hours. We'll work insanely long hours to get the job done, and women won't. Women will use a slick way to manipulate their way through. And I already did a video on what happens when you put all women in a company. It usually doesn't work. It doesn't grow beyond just a few small women. And a lot of women learn to not hire women because they see how women cheat through college. They're not as smart. They use their low cleavage and classes that don't enhance the business's performance. And a lot of guys fall for that. One of the things men are going to have to do is really take a stand. So our media is doing an excellent job of portraying men as being idiots or not as smart. And you look at modern day, you look at a lot of these movies now, it's showing women as the superhero and they can kick every man's ass. All it's doing is just repeating over and over and over again lies, but if you tell a lie long enough, people will actually believe it. There are lots of lies that have existed as reality in our society. They once believed that it was impossible to fly. They once believed that if the human body traveled at speeds greater than 40 miles an hour, it would explode. And if you go back, if you look at cars that are more than 100 years old, the top end was 40 miles an hour. There's a 1907 Rolls Royce that I think the hood of it is 7 feet long. That car goes for like 40 million plus. And that car has a top speed of 40 miles an hour. Why? Because people believe the human body would explode. So there are all kinds of things that it's like you call indoctrination or programming the brain. And men have been programmed to believe they only want one thing. And then when you get into a real relationship and you find out sex, you need more than sex. And some women are not that good at it. Or they withhold it and use it as the carrot on the stick. A couple of ways that you know that women are not that intelligent. One is you look at the amount of women who allowed themselves to be tricked out of their own femininity. So feminism told women that they could be men too. Yeah, patriarchy. So feminism told women that it was weak to be feminine and they should be more masculine, and then told men to be more feminine. Feminism taught women that men are the enemy and they could do anything a man could do. I mean, anyone in their right mind should know that men and women are not the same. they complement one another. Women don't need to do everything a man can do, just as men don't need to be able to do everything a woman can do. But women were tricked out of their own womanhood, out of being a lady. And when you ask women what they can actually bring to a relationship to make a man fulfilled, you get no answers to that. I watched a guy, Kevin Samuels. A lot of you may know him. He's got a pretty good channel, and he just last night was doing a show about why he was doing a show about women and marriage and quality men. He did a show about why average women believe they should have high value men, and how a lot of women who, on a scale on looks of 1 to 10, these women look like 5s and 6s, and they want a man who's ranked in looks and intelligence and income. They want the guy making $300,000 plus. He looks great, he's intelligent, and the woman is a dead 5. And somehow she believes that she should deserve this guy. And I think that's amazing, an amazing lack of intelligence and problems. And I think the only reason women are getting away with that is because men have been tricked out of their own power and told that they're not Superman. And it's not a matter of a man being Superman and having an S on his chest. What I'm really getting at is that men have way more power than they realize. What men have been tricked into believing that the only thing that they want in life is sex. And outside of that, the only thing they should want to do is provide for a woman. Like, a man's whole life is supposed to be about, he only wants sex, he should want to protect all women, especially the woman he's interested in, and he should want to turn over his resources, and his money is her money. How does that work? Like, can anyone tell me how that works? And the problem is, there are too many men who have bought into that and find it acceptable. So if you get a person to be a man that hey, I'm a man, I'm supposed to only want sex, and I need to provide, and I need to protect her, and you think that's your only value in the world, and when you ask the woman, what value is she bringing to your life? How does she make your life easier? She says, well, I'm there and you should be happy I'm there, or I'll give you children. I mean, hell, as men, we carry life in us, not her. She's incubated and she has a finite amount of eggs and then she's done. We carry sperm forever. We can be 60 years old and still father children. But what I'm getting at is men have bought into that notion that women are more valuable than men. That women carry life. No, we carry life. The way we were created is to have a complementary and cooperative relationship. But women have opted out of cooperation, and as many people say, women don't want equality, they want to be superior. So they're actually pushing this entire conversation about how superior they are and more intelligent they are. And the problem is many men have bought into that. And that disrupts the entire ecosystem. It's hard to get cooperation from a woman if you get a percentage of men who have bought into the notion that women are more intelligent than men. Yet you get if you look at the black community, right? What is it? Like 70% of black women are not married, undesirable, and they hold up, well, I have a degree. They can show you their degree, but they don't know anything about finding a qualified man who's on their level. The woman is a 6 and looking for a 10 and believing that she has a right to it. And in the meantime, she gets pumped and dumped all the way up into her 40s and she can't figure out what happened. And that's starting to happen throughout many different ethnic groups. It was primarily more of a black problem starting in the 80s. But now it's becoming everyone's problem. It started in a microcosm of our country, and it's growing now. But yet, many abroad go to and find women in the Philippines or Brazil or Dominican Republic or even across the border in Canada, Mexico. Hell, I lived abroad. I spent a number of years living abroad and saw exactly how women have a much healthier mindset about cooperating with a man and a healthier attitude towards sex. So we are taught women are smarter than us. Yet the evidence doesn't even prove it. And we have this growing trend of very average. And one of the things you hear a lot of guys talk about is when these women were in high school and college, no one looked at them. They didn't get attention because the women who were true 8, 9s, and 10s would get all the attention. Well, those women who were 8, 9s, and 10s were snatched up and were married to high value men. So the only ones left on the market are the women who are 7s and below. So now the 7s believe they are the new 10s and believe that they have a right to getting a guy who's a 10. Now, I put up a post on Facebook and saying that women should pursue the men who are at their level. And somehow women feel entitled, just like they feel entitled to leadership positions, even though they're not as productive and not as good in dealing with leadership challenges. One of the main things of a leader is their management positions and dealing with problems. Men are much more effective. So it seems like, ladies, you're not dealing with problems, not even your own, not even your own self-awareness. One of the biggest problems is you're shooting yourselves in the foot. And you keep trying to sell men on this notion that you're smarter than men, yet you can't figure out where you belong in this whole ecosystem. And a lot of you ladies are getting left behind. Many of you actually do have the right guy approaching you, but you turn him down. That's a whole nother problem. You allowed feminists to trick you out of being feminine. Yet you want a man who's masculine. How does that work? Exactly. Right. You see it in the bars. So ladies, how do we respect you as intelligent if you have no idea what men are looking for and how to match yourself up appropriately? You know what that looks like? It makes you look really foolish, because if you are, let's say you are a high school graduate, you don't speak and write English properly, and you go to a corporation and you interview and it's a Fortune 500, and you say you're there to interview for a CEO position of a Fortune 500 company. You look really foolish. You look as though you have no awareness of yourself and what you offer. You don't understand finance. You don't understand management. You just barely made it through high school. And you don't read and write very well. You don't speak English properly, where a CEO, communication is absolutely essential. And you're there to claim that you should be the CEO. That's how a lot of you women who are 4s, 5s, makeup and all these other accessories make women look better than they are. I've seen some pictures where 3s look like 8s. But it says that you ladies are not smart enough to know, you don't understand boundaries and where your limits are. And you step outside of your own boundaries and try to go into a world where you don't belong, and somehow you think having a college degree will make you more valuable. Now, I'll tell you when there is a difference, because I know some guys who are CEOs of significant companies. And you see some of these guys who are executives, very successful men, and their wives are not these fine, gorgeous, 9s and 10s. Their women have exceptionally high IQs. And when a woman has an exceptionally high IQ, she will have the intelligence to know where she belongs and where she doesn't. Now, a lot of those women will catch the guy while she's in college, or if she's an attorney, she may meet another attorney who is on the other side of the table in negotiation. They're both representing their respective clients. And that woman has a high enough IQ that she can actually attract a man who has a high IQ. But a lot of you women are not showing that. Men are looking for beauty and physical. That's, if they're going to raise children and they want a woman who's smart enough, who's going to be not only a good example, but be able to educate the children. Your primary and elementary school is not the full spectrum of education. Children learn right from home. And men don't want women who have no awareness and have no idea where they fit in the spectrum. So ladies, as much as we've been told that you're more mature and you're more intelligent than men, your actions and the proof is in the pudding, they say, right? So these women who say they're worth a lot and they should have a high value man, the fact of the matter, high value men don't pursue you. And you can't understand why. Yeah, they do put their expectations. Yep. So what I'm getting at, any of you women believe you are worthy of Superman. You let Hollywood infect your mind with such fantasies that you all think that you should be Lois Lane or Cinderella and get the prince or get Superman. Yet none of you ask the question, you're not smart enough to understand what it is that Superman was getting from Lois Lane. You compete with men when you're not even a competition, to be honest. So you're a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10, women, and you want a man who's a 10, and you have nothing to offer. Not the intelligence, not the looks, not the body, yet you believe you deserve. And you do the same thing when you go into corporations. I already did a lot of money because women are much less productive than men, yet you believe you're entitled to the job even though you cannot perform at the same level as the job. And that mindset has been pushed right into every aspect of women's lives. It's in your dating lives, it's in your marriage expectations, and it's in the whole mix of what you offer to a man. Like, how do you enrich a man's life? How do you make a man's life better? You clearly want a man to make your life better, right? You want him to offer protection. And what I was getting to a few minutes ago, there are women who are not as attractive. They don't have the greatest body. They're smart enough to take care of themselves and to be well groomed. And they may be a 6 or a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10. Yet they're going for a high value guy, except the most intelligent women will catch that man before he becomes high value. And the perfect example is a guy like Henry Ford. His wife met him before he became famous. He was a blue-collar worker. He worked up. He wasn't the smartest guy in the room. But she saw something in him, and she pulled it out of him. He was a shy man. She knew how to pull out the Henry Ford that we know him to be. Most women don't have any clue how to do that. So that's a number one skill that women need to have. Most of you women are not intelligent enough to develop those skills because you've been tricked by feminists to believe that you're supposed to be competing with a man. That's zero intelligence. The other thing that, like women like Mrs. Ford and other women who get these high value men, those women have a network. They have a network from their parents. And I said parents, coming from a two-parent household, they inherit the network of their parents, and that is part of their value to what they offer to a man. Nah, it doesn't matter. I know too many guys right now, you say different times, I know men right now who that is exactly what they get from their women. Their women pull the best out of them, and their women offer a network. Not only do their women inherit a network from their parents, those women are intelligent enough to go out and meet other men. I worked for a consulting firm, and the president of my firm, his biggest clients came from his wife. Not from his salespeople, not from his other people in the firm. His largest clients came because his wife, they had one child, took the son to soccer practice. She networked with the other women, and she was intelligent enough to know how to pick the right guy. It doesn't matter. The reason why those guys in the past, in the present, in the future will be successful is they have wives who understand cooperation, that the husband is not responsible for doing everything. What I'm getting at. Like this guy, this consulting firm, his wife made his life easier. She was out there networking with other women, and those other women were married to successful men. And the husbands of those other women became clients of the consulting firm I worked for. The president, the way it worked, his wife went out, met other women. If she met the woman married to the most successful guy, she would make great friends, invite them to dinner. The husbands sat down, talked, and closed deals. This is why I say most women are not smarter than men, because most women are kind of sit back and wanting to go for a ride, and they're not smart enough to understand how to contribute to a man and make life easier for him. They spend more time attempting to diminish the man. So it's like there are women who are actually married to Superman, and instead of valuing him as Superman, she competes with him and manipulates him and uses sex as a carrot to try and diminish how much power he has, and will say, well, you ain't shit and you're not doing anything. Look at the amount of divorces. Like over about 80% of the divorces are initiated by men, by women. Women are working hard to diminish men. That's not competing at the same level. They're not there to make the man's life easier. She's there looking to make her own life easier. And this has nothing to do with what time period. If we're in a hunter-gatherer society, what woman is smart enough to be able to see the most in her man and bring out the best in him and bring out sides of himself that he didn't see in himself, and go out and network with other men or other women and bring to the table. The most intelligent women are actually out there networking behind the scenes, weaving a web that supports her husband's success. And women who don't understand that do not understand the role of a woman in a cooperative relationship. She's too busy trying to get hers. And if you look at the amount of divorce initiated by women, it tells you how selfish many women are. Because once you ask for divorce and you take the father out the home and you have children, instantly one of the first things you did is emotionally traumatize your children. You just did something to them. You just gave your child a disadvantage. And neuroscientists will tell you that physical trauma, right, or emotional trauma, it occurs in the same part of the brain. The brain doesn't know the difference between physical trauma and emotional trauma. It registers it the same. So you just put your children at a disadvantage by creating emotional trauma because you had irreconcilable differences. And if you want to say cheating, there are probably some guys out there who are serial cheaters, right? And many of you women will choose that guy because that's all you think you deserve. But a lot of you women are lousy in bed, and you're so uptight. Like the U.S. was founded on a Puritan culture. And in a Puritan culture, it's constraining, and you can't talk about sex. There's so many things you can't talk about. You're uncomfortable having the conversations. Peace of mind. And hell, maybe that woman his side piece is doing a better job of connecting him with the right people than you are. You believe that just being the mother, because that's all you wanted. A lot of you women you only have children so you won't be alone. Because you don't have anything else to offer. See, you ladies are competing with men to try and prove you're smarter as opposed to actually putting in the work. If you want to win a gold medal in the Olympics, you have to get out there and train. I don't care what it is, what the sport is. If you want to be a professional, train. Be the best. And if men stop hiring so many women just to have women in the company and just only focus on bringing the best person that fits into the kind of culture you want, the high-performing culture. Imagine if the NFL put a quota on having women on the field. What does that do to the performance of your team? The Army understands that. You don't put you want to be a Navy SEAL, you have to meet a criteria. The best team is the best team. It just happens to be men who meet the criteria. If women were smart, you'd be good at what you're good at and be proud of that and be powerful at it, instead of trying to prove you're something that you're not, that you can be more than a man. You're not a man. And pretending to be something you're not, that diminishes your own intelligence. So, why do women believe they're smarter than men? It's because our media, the books, our parents keep telling us that. And there's absolutely no proof. When you look empirical evidence at IQs, the distribution of average IQ to above average to high IQ, it's evenly distributed. And I'm willing to bet if we looked at most of the women who are single for life, I bet those women fit right in that average. There's something called the Dunning-Kruger Effect. And in the Dunning-Kruger Effect, what it says is that people who are average to above average IQs tend to overestimate what they believe their IQ is. Like in almost every single case, the average person believes they have high IQs, and technically they don't. That's called the Dunning-Kruger Effect. Within the Dunning-Kruger Effect, people who actually have very high IQs generally tend to underestimate their IQs. So what I'm getting at is, by telling girls that they're smarter than boys and more mature, we actually Dunning-Kruger effect, where we're teaching girls that they're smarter than what they actually are, and teaching boys that they are dumber than they actually are. And I'll give you empirical evidence. In elementary school, they covered the names of the tests, when what they found is when the teachers didn't know the name or gender of the person taking the test, the scores of boys went up 30%. So that we are intentionally dimming the lights on boys and men, and we're lowering the bar for women and girls and saying that they're better. So we attempt to diminish boys and men, and then tell girls that they're better, but then lower the bar and try to make men so we can tell women that they're better than men, and it's not happening. So for this to be corrected, guys, this is going to be on us. I said it before. Don't have children with just anyone. In all likelihood, listen, when you look at IQ, the majority of people, about 65%, are average IQs. And most of these women are walking around with this Dunning-Kruger Effect. You can look it up. They believe they are much more intelligent than they actually are. And that creates a whole problem by itself. Become more discerning, guys, and let women know exactly where they are in this spectrum of you need looks that look a certain way, you need intelligence that meets a certain level. And that will help cure this problem. So I see a bunch of comments that have come through. Thanks. I'm on a tablet, and this might not be the best thing. It's hard for me to see some of those messages down there. But I want to go through and look at many of them. So I thank you for your participation in this, my first live chat. I see some great comments there. And until my next one, I'll see you all later and take care.